It's a pleasure to be here. I was born 56 years ago in Guatemala. I was working in Nestlé for almost 30 years. This is going to happen next January 1st. I have worked in 13 countries, including Brazil, including Mexico, Central America, Colombia, Ecuador, Venezuela, Argentina, and Switzerland. And since 2 years ago, I am the privilege to leading our organization in Nestlé in Brazil. I am married. I have 2 children, 29 and 26, both living in Mexico. My boy is 29 years old, and he's a banker, wealth management in Citibank. Okay, I'm going to start. And my daughter is journalist, so it's a good combination. This is our breakdown of our sales in Brazil. As Chris mentioned, we have a very important chocolate business for above 1 billion Swiss francs. But we have, in addition, an extremely important ambient dairy business and beverage under the Nescau brand. Our total turnover past year was above 5 billion Swiss francs. Charles de Gaulle have said, I don't know how many years ago, that Brazil is going to be continue a country of opportunities. And I think this is still continue a win of plenty of opportunities. 200 million inhabitants. We are taking out Alaska State from US. The size of Brazil is very similar to US. There is no way to realize, only living in Brazil, the continental dimension of this country. They have 25 years of stability, political stability, and 20 years of economic stability. The GDP is about 9,000 Swiss francs per year. There are different Brazils. We can see the North, the Midwest, the South, Southeast, and Northeast. The GDP of the Sao Paulo city is the same GDP of Argentina. But if we are looking to the 3 main states, Rio de Janeiro, Minas Gerais, and Sao Paulo state, altogether, it's more than 40% of the GDP in Brazil. So this is the source of the richness of this country. Northeast is the area where is developing the most recent growth in this economy and the consumption for the food and beverage companies and for the competitors also. The total food and beverage market is about 217 billion Swiss francs. The inflation is pretty high comparing with all the rest of the countries in Latin America. It's 100, 200 basis points above the average inflation. And in the last 5 years, we can see some food industry consolidation in different areas. Winning in Brazil requires deep local insights. Why? We already have 93 years operating in Brazil. Brazil is #1 developed country for retail investment. But the channel that is still growing today is until 4 checkouts. Bars are still are losing relevance, but still represents more than 20% of our sales. And we can see also the breakdown between the different classes, and the middle class is about 100 million population. In the last 10 years, depending on the sourcing, around 50 million Brazilians came to the consumption. But the infrastructure has not been at the same time developed. So there is lack of infrastructure, education, health systems, and safety. And there is still an important 24% in the low class. The demographic bonus for the next 34 years is still there. And we have this dimension of overweight that is growing very, very fast, but is not yet in the agenda of the authorities. We can see here the enormous progress in the GDP in the last 10 years. The incentives for the families. The unemployment is best in class in Latin America. And the world largest producer in commodities in beef, poultry, coffee, sugar, soy, and tobacco. Brazil produces more soy than US. So it's growing. Brazilian riots past year in the Confederation Cup probably is going to happen again during this World Cup. The difference is that past year this manifestation has been mainly spontaneous, has been social media, digital, and this year are going to be organized. Why? Because the people are asking for better service, for better infrastructure, for better education. And they can see a lot of investment that we are doing in the World Cup that are not giving returns for them. In addition, Rio de Janeiro is going to be the host of the Olympic Games in 2 years from now. And in this nice cocktail, in October 1st of this year, we are going to have a presidential elections. Some of you already asked me what's going to happen. I am not a politician guy, but there is a lot of scenarios. But there is a lot of challenges. 75% functional illiteracy. The Sao Paulo metro is only 18% of the metro in London. The paved roads are only 90% comparing with US. The spreads in the banks are 5 times bigger. In the last 6 months, more than 50% devaluation. Cost of doing business in Brazil is 36% above, and 28% above comparing with the emerging markets. Why? Because infrastructure and tax complexity. My previous responsibility has been in Mexico, and I have worked there for more than 5 years. We have a department of less than 10 people in Mexico prepare our fiscal documents. In Brazil, we have more than 150. The total legislation of tax, I am not invented, is 6 tons of tax legislation in Brazil, 6 tons. So it's 1/3 of a truck. So can you imagine the level of detail that we needed and the level of know-how of expertise that we needed. But as I mentioned, 93 years in Brazil, it's a big experience. We have the know-how. We started with Arara's factory, which is still operating today. It's a very unique factory close to Sao Paulo, 100 kilometers. We started with Niño brand in the 40s, chocolates in the 40s also, Maggi brand, with our Nutrir program, nutritional for kids at schools. And the last factory that we had built has been in Feria de Santana in the northeast, in Bahia State, very nice state. Garoto, that he bought, we discussed with Michael before, 10 years ago. We started seriously with Nestlé Continuous Excellence. We were the first country worldwide to start with TPM lines. We have more than 500 production lines in Brazil. And ahead we have this famous World Cup that hopefully Brazil is going to win. Otherwise, I don't know. And this is the context of Brazil comparing with the group employees. We have 23,000 employees. The ratio is 1:14. Factory is 28. Sales, as I mentioned, it's the relation is 1:18, and close to 2 million tons a year. Indirect employees, more than 200,000, 170 brands, 16 categories, and 200 million population. Yesterday, we mentioned several times that it's important to be number one or number two in the marketplace, and I am sharing with you with pride that this is the result of the efforts of different generations that has been leading Brazil during the last 93 years. We have a strong positions, number one or number two, and undisputed leadership in several nutritional health and wellness careers. This is also related with our superior portfolio. It means all the research that we are doing locally and globally, connected with our global networking of 30 PTCs that we have globally. And we have more than 150 people dedicated to innovation, renovation, and optimization of our recipes. And we have in the healthier dimension, 80% of our products. And in the taster, 77%, means healthier. 80% of our sales have nutritional foundation. And 77% has 60/40. But that is very impressive is to share this, that we are offering 14 billion fortified service of food per year to 200 million consumers. 14 billion. The last innovation that we have developed in the country has been, there is some example here, it's on the go, these aseptic lines with very, very strong local brands such as Nescau, Mucilon, Alpino. Nutren Senior, which is a great performance in the nutritional health science business unit. Liquid milks on the very, with value added, in the value added segment with strong brands such as Niño and Bolico. And Dolce Gusto. Dolce Gusto has been doing extremely well. We have launched it 5 years ago. It's growing extremely fast with great results. And we are very optimistic with the development of that. As Chris mentioned, 41% of the Brazilians believe that we are experts in the nutritional dimension, and the second player is only with 17%. But have a look to this 3 dimensions of cross-advocacy and tester and healthy choices. We are number 1, and the difference with the number 2 is impressive. I am very humbled just to share in these select awards because I try to collect only the most important ones, but we are very, very strong. We have a very, very strong image in Brazil. Our slogan is Nestlé Faz Bem, which is the traduction of Nestlé Good Food, Good Life. Nestlé Faz Bem is a very well recognized in the total surface of Brazil. For instance, Folha de Sao Paulo, which is one of the most serious newspapers in Brazil, recognized us as the best chocolate and milk company, respected consumers, data popular, middle class herd, Carta Capital, most admired company in food and beverage, reliable brands, 6 consecutive years as the most reliable brand, the best company for the consumer. And all of them are national awards. This is a slide that we already shared in different presentations yesterday, roadmap, priorities, and focus areas. Simplification. We have a 25% reduction in the last 2 years. And we define this concept of, in the monthly business plan, of flawless execution, who means that since the production lines until the execution of the point of sale, we have a process with NCE in the goal alignment exercise. It means that all the investment and resources that we are getting and implementing in the lines are aligned with implementation of these flawless execution SKUs. It means less complex the discussion and very, very efficient the process. We have been in this portfolio management helping brands such as Nestlé, that came from number 6 to number 2, improve our capacity in capital efficiency, and cost savings plans for over 100 million Swiss francs. Grasping opportunities. Brazil is already the second consumer market of coffee in the world. It's the first producer of coffee in the world, as you are aware, dominated by roast and ground. Only 4,500 brands in roast and ground, 4,500 brands with range of qualities, with range of profiles. 90% of the market is roast and ground, 10% is soluble. But the systems are growing very fast. Dolce Gusto, as I mentioned, we are already the number 1 market in Latin America. And we are the largest coffee exporter of Nescafé from the Araras factory to Europe. Chocolate, we did a great job. We shared with you, and this proves the resilience of this company in terms of when we are believing in things that are going to happen. This is the 3rd time that we launched Kit Kat in Brazil, and we failed 2 times. And the 3rd time, it happened. Why? Because we were very, very well aligned, because we were extremely focused in the dimension that we are going to do. And it's a great success. It's gaining market share. And the image of the Kit Kat, our ambition is really to become an iconic brand in the future. Liquids, source of growth or profitability. In 5 years, become the 3rd largest category in Brazil in 3 focus brands, Nescau, Molico, and Ninho. And this completely new mindset and model of this liquid world. Nutrition journey, I think strengthening our territory nutrition is a key priority. Pharma channel is growing extremely fast at the same level of these supermarkets until 4 checkouts. So it's growing and consolidated very, very fast. And enhance the nutritional benefits under a bolder communication. Strengthen our foundation. We are setting up a lot of resources and a lot of energy to strengthen our brands with consumer in a very solid process in the brand building the Nestlé way. Preserve a strong position of the Nestlé Fast Bank, Nestlé Good Food, Good Life, and positively impact kids' life. Route to market, leverage size into scale. As Chris mentioned, we have the scale to do that. Focusing on simplicity in commercial planning, very, very simple. We reduce in 1 year 90%, 90, of our activities in the point of sale. And we grew the invest, making choices and taking decisions with an impressive results and returns. And we have best-in-class broker model to the traditional channel. This has been building by our previous leadership. It has been built during 10 years. It's a unique model that is very, very efficient, that is going to the traditional channel until 4 checkouts. Some of the brokers are visiting until 10 checkouts. And you cannot imagine how other multinational companies, no competitors, are asking myself several times to be part of this route to market. And I always say no, even that they are not competitors, because this small supermarket that is going to buy 500 reais of products, I prefer to do that with Nestlé brands. So this is the balance between profitability and growing and market share, and have the right penetration and the right loyalty for our brands. We have an amazing good balance in our portfolio, premium, mainstream, and popular price products in different regions and channels of the country, as I mentioned in the first slide. Rich and relevant proprietary content with 2 million visits a month. Garoto, our chocolate business that I mentioned, is the first fan page in Brazil, more than 10 million. Negresco, which is a biscuit brand, is 1 million views in a single day. And we co-create in the innovation process for the World Cup this chocolate co-created on fan page for the Confederation for the World Cup. And it's performing very well. I just shared with Chris half an hour that we have launched our campaign for the Confederation Cup. You are invited to see that in Facebook and YouTube. 5 million visits in less than 1 week. And this is because the brands, and this is because that we are very, very engaged with our consumers and our brands. Creating share value is a dimension, it's an heritage. This is an area that Nestlé has always developed a good things in Latin America. We already have more than 1.7 million children impacted by our Nutri program. Nestlé Course is the largest event for pediatricians worldwide. 7,000 pediatricians are going to participate this year in Fortaleza, the north of Brazil. Sustainable awards, we received several of them. Food quality certification in Araras, Guyana, and several factories. In the nutritional health and science unit, we have a young nutritional program with 2 newcomers every year. 94% of our employees feel proud to work at Nestlé. 94. Cocoa Plan, 4,000 tons of certified coffee also. 10% increased milk producer productivity. And 50 years of continuous efforts equivalent to the consumption of a city of savings, water, CO2, and energy. 9 million quality tests per year. And having and developing the best people, we have, for the talent people and for the assets of our company, program dedicated to the acceleration programs, to these guys that are going to make a difference, that are going to maybe move it to function groups in less than 2 years. We have recognized the company of the dreams for the youngest people. We are in the top 3. We are #1 food and beverage company for leadership in the Hay Group. We are in the top 3 comparing with all the rest of industries. I am talking about companies such as Petrobras, Google, Apple, and these nice brands that are very important for the young people. Recognition, we have an internal program of Reconocer Faz Bem in CARS process. Gender balance, 34% women in succession plan for management position, but I would like to say also about diversity. Our ManCom in Brazil is composed by 7 different nationalities. And the diversity of this company proves that our guy that has born in Guatemala can lead the countries of the size of Brazil. International mobility, for us, this is a way to develop our people. We have more than 70 expats and more than 60 impats in Brazil. This is moving between 60s and 80s every year. And this is the people that we are preparing for future assignments, future high responsibilities. As I mentioned, more than 23,000 employees. Educational training, more than 400,000 hours. It means half a week per employee. Tailored to the diversity and special needs. Nestlé Corporate's business principles is very well integrated and committed, embedded in our organization. With the integrity report system working, a strong commitment, campaign, and training. Recognition, I already mentioned. One thing that is important is, and our leaders are recognized by that, is 98% of the movements in Nestlé Brazil are aligned with the succession plan. So the process of the communication and the targets are very, very well aligned. Nestlé Brazil financial figures. This is the compound annual growth in sales during the last 3 years and our performance in terms of trade operating profit. And this is the last slide. Winning proposition built on our heritage to accomplish even more. The traduction here is Nestlé fez bem e vai fazer ainda melhor. Significa we did very well, but we are doing to improve. We are doing to do much more better. Thank you. I am able to your questions.
Thank you, Juan Carlos. That was the first and the last time you're going to hear the voice of the voice of God.
Thank you very much. I am feeling so popular.
Okay, questions for Juan Carlos? Yes, sir. Alan.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Alan Oberhuber, Maine First. I have 2 questions. The first question is, given that you already mentioned the World Cup, what do you think has that an impact on your sales for this year, and secondly on the Olympics as well? And the other question I have is about inflation. We've seen high inflation. Do you expect that will roll on for the next couple of years?
Olympics will be more easy. I'm going to start because it's only be focused in one city, in Rio de Janeiro. So it's more easy to manage that. World Cup is 12 different locations. We started with the contingency plans with our customers since 6 months ago in order to anticipate any kind of riot and these kind of things, to prevent. So in terms of sales, I cannot see any impact even after the World Cup because we already provide that. We cannot see issues in terms of supply, but I can see a lot of noise during the World Cup. Inflation, it's related with currency, 15% devaluation. Yesterday, the real has been devaluated again, 2-3%. And the cost of the commodities, Arabics the price has been moving very, very fast and rapidly. Cocoa also, even that this is sourced locally, the people are selling at the international prices. And how we are going we have two dimensions to administrate that. One is our NCE program, who means all these initiatives that I already mentioned that is going to deliver 100 million Swiss franc savings. And innovation in terms of packaging, size, weights, renovation, trying to not overwhelm complexity. But sometimes in the categories, it's not so easy to compensate. And the efficiency has to be part of our daily activities. This inflation, 100, 200 points above in food, above the normal inflation, it happened during the last 5 years. And I think it's one of the big concerns of the Brazilian population. They don't like to come again. Maybe you are very young, but I don't know, 30 years ago, Marcelo, my friend, it's Brazilian. We have an inflation of 500% per year in Brazil. And this new generation don't know about that, but the older people don't like that this time is coming again. If you are asking me, according with the headlines that I am reading in the media, the first priority of the government, it doesn't who they are, is control of inflation.
David Hayes.
Hi, David Hayes from Nomura. You mentioned sort of the different areas. A lot of companies are talking about the northeast being the next big opportunity. Some companies, I think your competitors, have set up very specific subsidiaries just operating in that area and focused on that area. Has Nestlé structured itself in Brazil to deal with that area separately, and what are the challenges that are different to, I guess, the East Coast? And then secondly, I noticed your return on a capital chart wasn't on the final two slides, which I don't know off the top of your head, you know what the numbers are, but just wondering whether you have got the details as to, or whether you're investing now, particularly the northeast, and that means that the return at the moment is coming off before it improves. Thanks.
Second point is, you are right, we are investing in these things that we would like to accelerate, that are the priorities in our MBS. And the first question is, we were the first multinational company, and maybe among the 3 industrial companies that have placed a factory in the Northeast, in Bahia, in Feria de Santana, a very unique factory. But with the size of Brazil, if you are visiting the northeast of the north, you can see very local competitors using the fiscal benefits in different industries that are competing very well. We started before, and some of our competitors are investing right now or recently. It's okay? Yes?
Warren.
Hi, it's Warren Ackerman at SocGen. Can I ask a question on coffee? You said that roast and ground was 90% of the Brazilian coffee market and soluble was only 10%. But in Mexico, Nestlé have done a really great job building the soluble category. So the question is, why hasn't Nestlé been as successful in making Brazil more of a soluble coffee market? And how big an opportunity is soluble coffee in Brazil? And obviously with your perspective of working in both Mexico and Brazil, I'd appreciate your kind of insight into that. Thanks.
I worked in both countries. If you allow me, I am going to. One thing that you didn't mention is that Nescafé has been invented in Brazil, which is even worse. During the Second War, the Brazilian authorities has been asked Nestlé in Switzerland to develop Nescafé, because they cannot ship it, the coffee, to Europe. So we translate scientific from Switzerland, developed the soluble coffees during several years, and then we moved the technology to Switzerland, and we started with Nescafé 5 years later as a brand. I will be very happy if I am going to have in Brazil a soluble coffee business that is 50% of the size of Mexico. But the logistics are extremely different in Brazil comparing with Mexico. So this NAFTA alignment trades that Mexico did 25 years ago with USA and Canada has developed a lot of the infrastructure in Mexico. And it moves the logistic more easily. So to contact the consumer to be there was more easy. 25 years ago, the infrastructure in Brazil was extremely more weaker than today. So even that we are going to communicate, we will need not be able 25 years ago to change the profile and the perception and the priority of the consumer. And for the local and regional roast and ground coffee has been much more easy to do that because they are close. And this is the reason, if some of you are visiting Brazil for the World Cup, you are welcome, that the profile of this roast and ground is completely different depending on where you are in Brazil. So strategically, we are still trying to build a good soluble coffee in Brazil, but we are accelerating systems.
Okay, John.
Hey, good morning, John Cox, Kepler Chevreau. I wonder, maybe this is a general question first on Fonterra. What was the strategic thinking there? It looks like you've gone into ambient and got out of liquid or chilled. Are you going to get into chilled on your own? Is that the idea? And then maybe on the Brazil angle, you sort of maintained a factory where you actually maintained the chilled part of it. Is Brazil different to the rest of Latin America? I wonder what your strategy is there on the dairy end. And just on the sort of growth dynamics, you've talked about 12% CAGR local currency in the last couple of years. Just, based on what's happening at the moment, do you think you're going to get a double-digit local growth in currency this year in Brazil? Because, you've got the Soccer World Cup on the one hand, but you've got the elections maybe stalling general consumer confidence. Thank you.
So maybe we'll have Chris answer Fonterra first, and then we'll go back to...
Sure, maybe I'll speak about that because it actually extends, of course, beyond Brazil. So just as a bit of background, 10 years ago, Nestlé and Fonterra formed a joint venture, and there were two parts to that joint venture. One was for milk powder manufacturing, where we put our milk powder manufacturing facilities into this joint venture with Fonterra, with the idea that we would together basically source volume, each Fonterra and Nestlé, from these in the future, and leverage the know-how of both Fonterra and Nestlé when doing this. And the second part was then to focus on the chilled dairy category and develop chilled dairy together throughout Latin America. If we look at where we are 10 years later, the reality is a bit different. If we look at the manufacturing part today, it's true, we still have these factories are operating. The majority of the factories, milk powder manufacturing facilities, are in Brazil, but also in Argentina, in Colombia, and in Ecuador. And today we source close to 90% of the volume from Nestlé. And so then it was decided, as we were realigning this joint venture, that we would basically take these milk powder factories back. So that's what the plan is, and that's what we recently announced. On the chilled part, in reality, the joint venture really only is present today in 3 countries: in Brazil, in Venezuela, and in Ecuador. And in the case of Ecuador, not really in chilled dairy, that's more a liquid business. But Brazil is by far the biggest chilled dairy business that we have. We're actually quite satisfied with our businesses in these regions, but what we decided to do was now to focus on Brazil together. So the realignment of this new joint venture between Fonterra and Nestlé is focusing on Brazil. Chilled dairy in Brazil continues to be a focus, and it will be using Nestlé brands. That's very important. It will be using Nestlé brands as we move ahead. We've slightly changed the shareholding. It was 50-50. Now it's 51-49. From a financial standpoint, we didn't consolidate this business last year, for example, at 50-50, and we won't any longer, but it doesn't mean any less commitment to developing chilled dairy in the future. So to summarize it, it's basically the milk powder factories come back to Nestlé. We focus together with Fonterra on chilled dairy in Brazil. Yeah.
Okay, Juan Carlos, the question on
Could you
growth.
repeat the second question, please?
Do you think you'll get local currency growth in Brazil organically of 10% this year?
You can't say.
We can't.
I don't know. It's a difficult question.
That's a good answer.
We have a good contingency plans. We are in Latin America acting historical, working well in turbulence times. We have people prepared to that, and we have the know-how. Hopefully, this is not going to happen. Not only because Nestlé, but because the country. Our MBS is very, very well aligned in order to improve and fix and accelerate, as Chris mentioned, and Juan Lee.
Okay, yes.
Just a quick one. I think you said that you cut your point of sale activity by 90%. And first of all, can you just clarify that that's what you said? And second, where did all those resources go?
No, we have additional resources, but only in 10% of activities. Making choices for those things that are going to make a difference. The big risk is that we are going to make the wrong choice. We are going to see on the figures.
So the existing activities were just upsized, or you went deeper discounts, or
depending on the category and the competition and the timing. We have a very important Easter chocolate category in Brazil, for instance, that we are extremely focused to do that. During this, let's say, 6 weeks, there is no other activity except in chocolate Easter in Brazil, because this is going to make a difference for us. It's and most important business. That I'm saying is we didn't reduce the resources. We increased the resources, we increased the capital that we are investing, but much more focus.
Yeah, it's really about sales force execution. That's what he means. It's just the sheer number of activities month on month have now been basically concentrated and focused, and the results are better. So.
They're very good. We are very pleased with the results.
Okay. Adam.
Hi, it's Adam Spielman from Citi. Can I ask another question comparing Brazil with Mexico? I've been a bit naughty because I've looked ahead in the pack and it says in Mexico the sales compound growth is about 4%. Clearly you've done much, much better in Brazil, and I want to ask the question in a positive way. What have you done so well in Brazil that your Mexican colleagues can learn from that's allowing you to grow so well?
No, wait a minute.
I think
Juan
this
Carlos was
is
in Mexico
Chris.
before. No, you were in Mexico before, so you can answer that question.
No, I think the competition is different. The route to market is different. The retailer is different. The market shares are different. So the cocktail is different. The formula, the equation is different. Therefore, the action plan is different. We can. This is not a copy-paste philosophy. I would like to have the half of the soluble coffee business in Brazil. I would like. It makes me and my team the life more comfortable. But the consumers say I prefer roast and ground, and we are accelerating systems.
So it's more about the level of competitive intensity and about the retail structure than it is about different categories or
competitive intensity and retail situation.
Thank you.
And tax in the case of Brazil. Tax complexity.
And that helps you.
In certain categories, yes. In other categories, no.
Thank you.
I have to be competitive with my main competitors, with full compliance.
Okay, I think we have a question from Celine.
Yes, Céline Panutti, JP Morgan. Going in through your main categories, could you talk about local competition and as well your market share performance, please? Thank you.
In chocolate, our main competitors are multinationals. All the information is public. In tablets, we have Mondelez. In gifting, we have Ferrero. In count lines, we have Hershey. And all of them are doing a great job. They are very respectful competitors. Milk is completely different. Milk, we are competing with local cooperatives, regional business, regional companies in different areas of the country. So it's extremely difficult, and the business model, the priorities in our brands are quite different comparing of the area. For instance, we have in the Northeast, coming back to your question, a specific brand, Ideal, just dedicated for these consumers according with the local competition that we have there. Very focused, very dedicated. And in beverage, we have several competitors. We have a multinational company with a very strong brand. And we have very local and regional competitors in different areas of the country, competing with good products, especially in the south, in the area of Curitiba, Rio Grande do Sul, Florianópolis, Santa Catarina.
Maybe you want to mention a few of the choices that have been made that may have impacted market share for these categories.
See, we, in some cases, has been decided to don't continue in those channels or regions that we are not creating value, both for the customers, both for us, both for the shareholders. And it's coming back. In certain categories, this decision to be focused in those channels or regions that we are creating value is paying.